so they're nice and coated in the apple cider. Flavor the juices. I have my apple butter. So I'm preparing for turkey season with an awesome roasted chicken recipe. And this isn't any old roasted chicken recipe. This is roast chicken with an apple butter glaze and then roasted veggies on the side that are tossed in a little bit of apple cider and fresh rosemary. Yum. This recipe is so, so good. It's almost so good where I feel like you could swap out the chicken and use a turkey on Thanksgiving and use this same recipe. So let's get started. It starts with a bird, a happy little bird. So this is a 4-pound whole roast chicken. The key to roasting chicken is you want the chicken to sit on the counter for about 30 to 45 minutes so that it comes a bit to room temperature before you roast it, or else all that liquid is gonna drain right out of your bird and it's also going to roast unevenly. So what I like to do is I like to season it with a generous amount of salt and pepper, and then just let it sit on the counter for about 30 minutes or so, just to get it to room temp. So I'm gonna set this guy aside and we're gonna work on our apple butter glaze, which is just such a simple but amazing glaze. You're gonna love it. So I have some apple butter. If you're not familiar with apple butter, it's basically like concentrated applesauce. And you wanna make sure that there's no cinnamon or nutmeg or any flavoring in it. It's just the apple butter because we're gonna add our own flavors to it. So I have my apple butter. I'm gonna add in some melted butter to this. And this is gonna kind of stretch our apple butter and turn it into a bit more of a glaze. Also, when you top this on the chicken, it's gonna get nice and brown and crispy. Oh, so yum. And then I have just a little bit of allspice. And allspice is one of those nice fall flavors. It's kind of more on the savory side, like cloves, as opposed to like cinnamon. So it's really nice in savory dishes like roast chicken. So I'm gonna mix this all together. You'll see that it stretches a little bit. And we're just gonna leave this on the side until when we wanna glaze our chicken a little bit later. And I'm gonna grab another thing that we're going to top our chicken with, which is fresh sage leaves. These are really nice young sage leaves, which I like. They're really tiny, so they're nice and soft and tender. And all I wanna do is I'm just gonna pinch the sage leaves off and I'm gonna brush them in olive oil just like this until they're nice and shiny, and then set them aside. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna glaze our chicken and then we're gonna top it with these sage leaves and they're gonna get nice and crispy in the oven. So I'm gonna set our sage leaves aside and it's time to work on our roasted veggies, which is my favorite part because they're so fall. So I have some little red baby potatoes and I'm just going to take a knife. If I had a knife, it would be helpful. And I'm just gonna slice my potatoes in half and pop them in a big bowl. Want a raw tater, Eric? They're nice and crunchy. All right, we reached the end. And now it's time for our shallots. So I have some shallots, whole shallots that I just peeled. So all I did was I took my shallot and I cut the ends off just like this. Let's see how many tears I can shed. Usually I have Eric do my onions for me because I swear I have an allergy. It's a problem. And I'm just going to pop in the whole shallots. It seems so easy until this last piece. I feel it. After my recovery from my shallots, I have some butternut squash. I just bought this pre-cubed in the grocery store instead of carving your own butternut squash. I mean, who has the time for that? Although it usually comes in kind of these rustic shapes. You do want all the pieces that you're going to roast to be about the same size so that way they cook evenly instead of one being done and one not being. So then I have apples. You can use whatever apples you want, Granny Smith, Honey Crisp, and you're just gonna cut a piece off just like this, and you're gonna cut it into big, rustic slices, just like that. And finally, we need to bring all these ingredients together with another fall flavor. So I'm going to add some apple cider, just to bind everything together, a little zhuzh of olive oil, some salt, and pepper. And then we need an herb. We need a nice fall herb, and that is going to be rosemary. So I have some beautiful fresh rosemary. You can use dried too, but fresh is always better. And you're just going to run your fingers along the stalk of the rosemary. I'm losing my mind. And all the little pieces will just come right off. You don't want to use this. This is tough. Toss time. You're just gonna take some spoons, toss all your ingredients together, just so they're nice and coated in the apple cider. So a final set aside, I'm just gonna set aside these veggies for roasting. I'm gonna grab my bird and I'm gonna take this to the oven. We're going to start off by roasting the chicken at 400 degrees for about 25 minutes with nothing on it at all but salt and pepper, and then 2 more parts with our roasted veggies and then with our glaze. See you in 25. So our bird's been roasting for 25 minutes. It's time to take them out. Oh. Try not to burn yourself. And go ahead and take all those nice veggies that we cut and put them right around the chicken. I added all the extra apple cider too, because that will flavor the juices that come out of the chicken. So it's time to pop this guy back in the oven for another 25 minutes, and then we'll baste it with our amazing glaze. I heated the apple glaze in the microwave for just a few seconds to loosen the butter up. And now I'm gonna slather it all over the chicken, pop it back in the oven at 400 degrees for another 15 to 20 minutes until it registers 165 in the thickest part of the chicken. Don't forget to put the sage leaves on top of the apple butter so they crisp up in the oven. I'm going in. The skin on the chicken is so good. A little charred, buttery, hint of apple, hint of allspice, and the veggies honestly are so good, and all the juices. This is a fall bird. Check this out on tastefullygrace.com. You won't regret it. You know you want it, Eric. Chugga chugga choo choo.